guys are doing great over there. So today's my topic is 2.2.7 value type and reference type. Thanks to God that I'm able to share and you are able to listen. If you don't know about my previous lectures, then you can just visit this Junior iOS Application Engineer course. Over there I just describe everything in deep. So there is a section 2 is going on, which is Swift Basic Fundamentals. In this, like 2.2.7 is value type and reference type, which I'm going to cover today. And the fun thing, like I want to tell you, if you don't aware about this protocol oriented programming, go in depth and check this protocol 2.2.2 protocol oriented programming chapter, right? So once you will go and check this protocol oriented programming in Swift, you will understand like what is a value type and why we are just doing it as a value type, and struct type difference we are just doing here. So value type is a struct and which believe like we need to follow the POP. Reference type is believe like is a class keyword, and it's towards the object oriented programming rather than protocol oriented programming, right? So Swift is loaded with both weapons. So value type and reference type both are there. If you will use classes, it will allow you like 4 pillars of the object oriented programming: encapsulation, polymorphism, and data abstraction, and this inheritance concept, right? So that's why I just covered this third topic, like override concept into the inheritance with the classes, right? Because the Objective-C and Swift doesn't support the multiple inheritance. I'm just repeating again, multiple inheritance is not there to the Objective-C and Swift, right? So it's a not pure object oriented programming itself, like the Swift and Objective-C both. They have the part of this, but this is not purely object oriented programming, right? It's fine. Now the static and class keyword difference. What is the static and class keyword difference into the Swift? Rather than other languages like Java and C, C++, static is different, right? It will hold the last value in the Java and all. But in this, like static is completely different. I'll tell you, and just forget about other languages. Here you need to go with the flow, and whatever I'm explaining, just take it. So now quickly we'll go and just create this Xcode project playground only, because I don't want to move forward as a project. I want to practice it. Once I will be expert into Swift, I'll move forward. So in this case, I will tell you one thing: what is a value type and reference type, right? So if I'm telling you, like I'll create a struct A and I'll create a property name string, and this will be a iOS, right? And if I will print I'll create an object, let A is equals to A, and if I will print this one a dot name, then it will look like iOS, right? Now if I have another object, like I want to create a let B equals to from the A, like A will be the body and the body of B will be A, right? Rather than creating like this, remember, I'm not creating like this. I'm not creating as a fresh, I'm creating it from A's body, right? So B is a head and A is the body, right? So now if I'm just creating again like print B dot name, that means it will also a iOS, right? Now suppose if I want to change the B dot name from iOS to Java, so what will happen here? It will change, right? Here it will B dot name will change. Yeah, it's a struct, so it's saying me, forcing me like you need to create this as a variable. If you don't know about this property declaration and all, like go and just check this one, like there is a 2.2.3 variable and property declaration. You will understand like why it's forcing and just stopping me to create these things, right? Now into this b.java, b.name equals to Java, if I will print this, it will print me just Java. So if you will print this, it will tell me about the b.name. Like if I want to print b.name, now what it will give me, I'll look into this. This is Java, right? So if it is a Java and it's giving me the Java input, and if I will print is object a dot name, then what it will give me, that also I need to print. So in more clearance I'll print look like that, I'll print like that. In more clearance I'll print like that only. So if you will go and check, yeah, this is there, and a dot name will be there. And if I will print everything here like that, and it will be b dot name is Java, a dot name is iOS. That means a is not affecting over there. The copy of b, a is coming into the b. So into the heap, what's happening in my heap, what's happening here? So if you will see, this is a memory, right? This is a memory, and inside this memory, if I'm creating an object, right? I'm creating an object, and that object actually, I'm sorry for my bad drawing itself, like, yeah. So into this heap I created the object a, right? And this object a went inside the heap, and inside the heap, like, actually first I need to set it properly. I think this is not good enough, so paintbrush will be there. I'll do this, yeah, now it's fine. So inside the heap I created a object, and through the a object of a struct, and this struct a I created here into the heap, and then through this a I take like what happened in the struct case, one more copy is created, and that is defined to the b through a, right? So like that it's happening, one more other instance is creating over there. So whenever I'm just changing b dot name, it's changing b dot name only Java, rather than a is still iOS, right? A dot name is still iOS. Now if I will do this as a class, then what will happen? If I will make it as a class, then if you will see and you will print this, it will be changed as a b dot name as a Java, and a dot name also changed as a Java. That means it's a reference type. Reference type in the sense, like, b dot name, b is initiated with the a's body, and that it's referencing to the b a. Like if I will change like this a, and if you will go and just print this, those will be separate, right? Java and iOS. Why? Because it's not dependent to the a, right? So if you will create a body of a, same like into the struct, it will not work like that. If you will hurt b's property, it will reflect to its parent as well, right? So if you are creating a object inside the heap, and through that a you are creating b object, now its properties will depend on the b's properties. If you will change b property, a property will also change, because it's a reference type. So same referencing, same address it's holding, so reference is there. So from where like you are coming, that will also change. But in the struct, they are just making another copy of it, and it's completely separate, right? So whatever copy you will create, those will be separate, and those will not talk to each other, and it will be independent. So this is the example of protocol oriented programming, and this is the example of your object oriented programming. So it depends on object reference, right? So that was a big difference. Now what I want to tell you, one more thing here, like, it's a class, right? It's a class, and I have a function. I have a function test me, right? Test me function will be there, and in this test me function I created like print test me from a, right? From a. And now if I want to create a class b, and I want to inherit the class a, right? It will able to inherit, right? And now what I need to do, I will create a var b's object like that, and I'll print a class b dot test me, right? Will it work? Yeah, it is working. So from a, the function is printing there, right? The test me function is printing, like from A I'm just coming, right? From A I'm just coming, right? So if I'm coming from A, it's completely fine, and it's not giving me anything else rather than just printing test me only. And if you will see, and this, it's giving me the empty result because test me have nothing, right? So it's not returning anything, right? It's not giving any value, so it's void. So void is printing there, and from A is printing because I just printed this here, right? Now I'm sorry, I want to tell you, like if suppose I'll create it as a struct, will it work? No, because I told you value types, those are completely independent, and they don't believe in all four pillars of object oriented programming. So if you will go and just make it struct, they will tell, hey, this is wrong, right? You can't do this because struct can't be inherit. That main difference you need to keep in mind, right? So struct will never adopt the property of object oriented programming feature, and the protocol oriented programming features will be there into the struct. So it's completely restricting all the inheritance concept and everything, right? So language itself giving you the strong power over there for understanding. Now again I'll come back and make it class, and if I will create the overriding here, so my function is a test me, right? And test me, if I will do like that, test me function, if I will use, it will come up with the override, like I am from, I am from B, so I executed it from B. Now I am just using this B. What effect will come there? It will say I'm coming from B because I already defined this test me. A is my father and function is there as a test me, and it will print A, but I just borrowed this function and through the override, and I modified this with B, and it's giving me the result, right? So it's perfectly fine. So now the overriding concept is working like that into Swift as well. If you want to work like this, you can use the override concept like this. So if what will happen if I will create multiple inheritance also, right? So I have suppose another uh, class test is there, and test me is inside that as well, and if I want to execute with the multiple inheritance, will it be possible? It is saying multiple inheritance from class A and test, which is not possible into the Swift, right? As I told you earlier. So these kind of things will not work over there. And now if you want to proceed with the Swift struct, then what it will say, like suppose I have a struct and I don't believe into the override concept, right? Then how I will take the properties. So it is saying I am the struct, I follow the POP concept, I am a value type person, and value type person will focus only on POP thing. Then create a protocol because I'm protocol oriented approach, right? So protocol I created like test protocol, and I can just add this test protocol here. Like I can just write a definition declaration here, like test me, and the same test me function I'll define there once I'll execute this protocol in front of this struct, like testable, right? Testable protocol, if I will use this, then I'll use this function here, and test me is already there. If it will be not there, it will ask you and it will force you just stub and add this. You know very well errors are also two type, like one is a fixer and another is a short error into the Swift. So it will help you, like you can just print I can modify my testable feature, right? Like that. So struct is following the protocol oriented programming also, like testable and doable, like that. If things are there, and do something will be there. And if you want to do this thing as a multiple inheritance, then doable will be there, and you can just add that stub over there, right? So it will tell like add one more stub, which is a do something function from the side of doable, right? So you can just print, yeah, one more feature added, feature loaded, right? Like that you can use the struct and protocol oriented programming rather than class and reference type, right? Overriding concept you understood, right? This should be a class variable, yeah, class functions and class variables in Swift, right? So how you can create the class function and class variable, that I'm telling you. So there is a POP concept which is loaded with the struct, and struct is enforcing like don't use oops concept, right? So static is more towards to struct in our Swift case, right? And the class is more towards to the object oriented programming. So how static will work? So what is the use of static, right? So static use, it will work like that, like if I static with struct, right? So struct, if you will go and check, like I created a struct a, and inside that first I want to declare a variable, right? Variable, and which will be a class variable, right? So now if I want to create a var name, and it will be a string, and it will be a iOS coder, right? So this will call like let like I want to create let object of the a, and then I can call this object dot name property, right? Then it will call there, right? So object dot name will print iOSCoder, but what suppose I don't want to create this thing and I want to call it like that, how it will be possible? Because it's a class function, right? Class function and class variable is those are calling with the name of its class itself, and you need to do it static, right? Because it's a struct, and inside the struct if you want to declare it as a class variable, then you can just call it like a dot name, right? So iOSCoder will look like that. Now if I will change it into the class, will it work? No. So class properties are only allowed within the classes. Use static to declare this property, right? It's fine, good. So like that you can create a static variable class variable. Also like func test is there, and if I will do this test, print test is there, right? And in this test I'll use the use of static. I'll show you the use of static. So test function is there. e.test will not work like that. Again I need to create an object of this a, and then I need to call this object dot test. But I don't want to create this. Again I'll use the static, and it will be a class function. I don't need to create the object, and I can just call this directly with a class, right? So it will call the test function itself, right? And it will print some test, right? It is printing some test, right? Now because we printed it, so like that you can just create class variable and class functions which will call on its name, class struct name, right? Struct name. So static function and static variables are those variables and functions, those are calling the name of the struct, right? Now suppose the same thing if I will create as a class, right? Then if I will go and I'll create this class, it will not give you any error. It will not give you any error, and it will work like a.test as smoother, right, as it was, right? And what is the difference? Now I want to tell you, like if I will do the same thing here into the class keyword I will use here for the variable, it will give me the error, right? Why? because class stored properties will not accept the class like that. So in the static, like static will always use to call the properties on the name of its class or struct with the static keyword, rather than class will not work on the properties, right? But class will work on the functions itself, right? So once you will call this as a class function, it will call over there and it will give you the result, right? And the same result what static was giving, right? What static was giving. Then what is the difference between class and struct at the function calling of the function, right? So what is the difference that I want to tell you, right? To understand this class and static difference of the function, right? So if you will use the class, once you will declare as a struct, or if you will use the class function, if you want to try this class keyword of the function of test on the a struct, it will tell you, hey, I am the struct, you know, I'm the struct, and I am not, you know, class methods are only allowed within the classes only. I am the family of struct. I will use only static, right? So if you want to declare me as a static, and I came up here because I want to stop the inheritance and all things, right? So once you will use me into the classes, take care of myself, and just once you will declare this class A and you will use this static to functions in your classes, then I will be there. Nobody can stop me over there into classes as well, because I believe in protocol oriented approach, and protocol oriented approach I want to inject into the classes as well, because Swift is deliberately going in this approach only. So they are allowing this static keyword into the classes, but the struct are not able to access the class keyword like that, right? They will tell like, just I don't want this family, right? I don't want this family. So like that you can just imagine like why static is there. Now if you will use this static keyword, and if you want to inherit, you know, if you want to inherit this function, then class b will be there, and inside that b, if you want to inherit this test function, it will not allow you, right? It will not allow you. So inheritance overriding, like if you will override this function over there into the test class b, if you want to create like that, and if you will do this, right, it will not come there. Now if you will create this as a class, then it will come there 100%, right? So class is saying, if you will make me class function, then no doubt I will be the b dot name b dot test itself, and I'll call there through the inheritance, and this will be called fantastically over there. So if you will see, my test function is there, and if I will do, override keyword is there, and I can just call this test from my b's object, right? B test is there. So once I will do this b test, it will work over there perfectly, and b test will be called there as a b test, right? So b test is there. So now we understood, like if I will make it as a static, it will stop me, and overriding will be not possible. So it is saying cannot override static method, right? So static is useful for declaring any class function, right? Any class function into the struct or into the class as well. But the main power is static function is like, once you will declare a static function, that means it will not override into the classes, right? So if you want a overriding process, then you can use class function rather than static function. That's all. So static is basically, we understood like static is restricting the inheritance concept, like overriding concept into polymorphisms, overriding concept into the oops, and which is why this static is used here. And if you want to declare any variable into the struct as a static or into the class itself, now you will go and just change this class keyword here, it will give you error as well. So in Swift, whatever variable you want to create as a class variable, like they can call with the class name, you can't create them with the class. That you need to remember also, right? So class stored property not support in the classes. Did you mean static? Yeah, we mean to do it as a static, right? So those things you need to take care. First is static will work for the creating properties as a class properties, right? And then the static will use over there on the functions over there, like you can just make them static so that they can't be overwrite in future classes, right? They can put error over there deliberately. I don't want to, you know, um, pass this test function to other classes. Then you can use static rather than classes. If you want to pass this function in future classes, then you can use this class function here like that, and your function will work over there as it is in oops it was working, right? So like that, this was the difference between static and class keyword. And static is more moving forward for POP rather than oops, and the class is just denoting for the class function for the oops help, and it support like overriding polymorphism. So that's all for today's topic, and hope you enjoyed this. If you like this, then please share and subscribe it, and like share as much as you can share with your friends. Those are really interested in iOS development. I will take care of each and everything, and go slow speed will automatically come. And till section 14, you will be the champion over there in junior iOS engineering course. Thank you so much.